Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry you had to see that. This box wasn't cooperating, so I had to do a little bit of recon. I've never been to recon. Who am I kidding? Hey, in front of me is another 12 volt RV air conditioner. This one made by Kryscape. Very similar etching to the last one, but this one, as you may have seen in the box, is another inverter style RV air conditioner. And I've got big plans for this one too. But in this video, we're going to crack it open, take a look at what's inside. We're going to run a few tests, and we're going to find out how efficient this is compared to a 120 volt RV air conditioner. I know what you're saying. It's not, doesn't even compare. And yes, you would be right. However, if you have an RV like mine that has 2 air conditioners, now 3, and you really only use one, and you barely use the second one, the third one, the second 120 volt, why not replace it with a 12 volt RVAC, potentially run it off of 120 volt power, save energy, be able to run it off of a power station or batteries and a small inverter, plug it into the house, and not have to listen to that other giant monstrosity that we barely ever run anyway. So we'll get more into that here in a few in the video, but let's break this bad boy open, find out what's inside, see how much I like what it's got going on and how much I don't. We're gonna do that together. Looks like we've got one crossbar, similar to my other one. We have this gasket, which I'll talk about why I'm not a fan of these. They're fine, but I prefer others. A really nice whip here with a built-in fuse. Doesn't say how many amps, but probably 100 amp fuse. Remote control. Those are definitely hold downs for the zip ties. Another one that has these awesome little feet on it. So these feet screw into these inserts, so you don't have to use RV gasket to prop up the back of the unit, which is huge. I really, really like that. Our decorative shroud is right here. This does look like 6 gauge wire, a nice, probably a 12-foot whip there. This will give you plenty of cable to get it to where you need to go, unless you need to go further. For my purpose, like I said, we'll talk about it later. I'm going to shorten it up, but let's open this thing up. First impressions, I like what I see. Let's go ahead and bring you in closer. Take a look under the bonnet. So this is a brand new 12 volt RV air conditioner from a company called Kryscape. And I like that name because cryo is kind of a dad joke. But there are some things I like, and some things that I guess I like. Not sure. We'll talk about that. So first, it doesn't have the foam, the big foam dome here. So this plenum is plastic underneath this rubber insulation. So I don't know. You tell me if this is better. The iHoo2 that I installed on the front of the RV had the same similar type of setup with a Reflectix type here. So does this need more insulation? Is the foam one good? So far, I think the jury's probably out, but we'll see. Seems all right on the other one. So just like on the other one as well, this has the dual rotor compressor. So it doesn't have the car automotive style, and I'm sure these are car and automotive style now, but if you look under the hood of your car, you'll see the big aluminum compressor. Some of the other ones, the other 12 volt mini split I've got, have that, and basically just a motor on the front of a car compressor, really. So this one's a little different. They put this big, thick insulation on here. And again, this one is R134A. So it is serviceable. And you see the high and low side pressure valves are here. So you can easily maintenance these with typical automotive tools, or if you don't have them, you can go rent tools at the parts store and refill it, put a little boost in here if you need to. Everything else seems to be made, up to the quality that these are made at, with soldered and brazed fittings, standard hoses, nothing that stands out. Condenser, evaporator, fan looks good. One thing that does stand out against the other two that I have is this controller. This controller is much more robust than the other two. So the one on that 12 really cheap 12-volt mini split that I have installed on the boat and the RV. And the one on the iHoo 2 version is a little bit different than this one, a bit different than this one. One thing I'll say I don't mind, but I don't like, I guess you have to make it this way, is these wires come in over here on the side. So you'll have to pull these 4 screws out and move it over if you want to put in different bigger wires or smaller wires. Faceplate off. It's just a basic, sleek look. What these are designed for are truck campers, vans, those types of things. So the company is sending me an extension because my RV roof is 5 inches thick. So I won't be able to install it in this video because that's being sent to me. But they do make an extension kit and I'm going to get it. So in the next video on this, you will see me install it and you'll see what that extension kit looks like. But looking at some other things here, looks like the drain for condensate is here. So it's going to come out on both sides, it looks like. I have a pretty crazy idea. It's probably an idea that people are going to hate, but those are exactly the ideas that I like. Let's put this thing back together, make my idea, show you how we're going to test this thing. Before I execute my crazy idea, I do want to explain what I'm going to be testing in this video. So here is the 10,000 BTU air conditioner. Up there, you've got one 13.5 thousand BTU air conditioner. That one is a Rec Pro that I installed myself after the original 13,000 that was on the back, the Coleman Mach, died. So I moved, that one used to be on the front, so I moved the good one back, and now it has this one. So it's got two 13,000 BTU ACs and now a 10,000 BTU 12-volt air conditioner. That one is hooked solely to battery power and is for running while we drive down the road. So while we're driving down the road, I do like to run that air conditioner because the passengers sitting behind the driver and the passenger get pretty hot. So that is to cool them off. When we are parked and we're using it, we mainly only use the Rec Pro that's also a heat pump. The Coleman is not a heat pump. So we mainly just use the Rec Pro. The Rec Pro, the plan for the Rec Pro is to keep using that, but only on the hottest days. And we don't typically camp that much in the hottest days. We use that, but we only turn that on to help every now and then. The problem is you can't run both of those on one smaller generator. I only have a Predator 3500 generator, and that's not enough to run both of those. When you plug it in the house, you can only run that and nothing else inside of the RV, maybe the refrigerator. The plan is to see if this one here can replace that one there, and I would power this on a converter that converts 120 to 12 volt power. Block off the vents since that one is ducted as well to those. So that should help this one as well, not push air into that air box. And see. So we're gonna test this one, see how much it pulls on through that inverter, and then we're gonna test the converter, and we're gonna test that one and see how much power and wattage it pulls. We'll see if that gives us a better ability to potentially run 3 air conditioners plugged into one, potentially the house. Cue the build montage. It ain't worth doing if it ain't worth doing twice. I got a montage going. Basically like For anyone who's ever thought that was a terrible idea, you're welcome. I've got to put this front back on. This is built for like 1.5 to 2 inch thick roof. I had the 2x4s going like that, so I did have to turn them. Biggest thing was getting back to these screws, and it made it a lot easier to work under here. What I did want to do, what I think people would have hated even, is I wanted to turn it like this and just put it against the wall. But I think I didn't like these bolts being the only thing holding it actually against the wall. So there's nothing else to, you know, unless I built a shelf that was perfectly under this that took the weight of it, it wouldn't quite be, yeah, it just wouldn't be good. So I decided to build this thing. Is it going to cool the shed? I have no idea. Maybe one day that one will, but for now, this is what I built. And I'll put the front back on, show you how I'm going to wire this thing. And yeah. On the RV, I'll probably use these wires. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to shorten them, but I think what I'm going to do on the foam down here, I'm going to cut a U in the foam towards the back, and I'm going to lay the wires inside the foam. So we're going to come in and inside the foam and down into the RV. I looked and I didn't see. I'll look again. Maybe I'll open this up again, but I didn't see like where I could run the wires and make a pass through down into the RV. There might be a way to do it. I'm sure I could find a way to route it. If I do, I'll let you know, but that's the plan. And when they send me that other kit, after I do this testing, my next video will be installing it and just checking it on that RV there. Maybe running it off the Predator, see if I can get all 3 ACs running at the same time. It's quiet and it's cooling. Currently 83 in here, so it's going to take a lot, but we're doing it. We're doing it, Red Band. We'll be back. Hopefully, it's obvious that the purpose of this build is not to build this monstrosity that I used scraps and a hope and a prayer to put together. This is simply to have a way to bench test this unit in a bit of a controlled environment, so hopefully I can actually judge a little bit of the cooling, even though there's zero insulation in this shed whatsoever. The eaves are open. It's got open ridge vents, so not very efficient whatsoever. However, this is going to give me a chance to test the power draw, to test the power usage, to test a little bit of the cooling, so I can do a head-to-head comparison with that Coleman Mach that's in the back of our air conditioner. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. Right here, we have a 110 volt to 12 volt converter. So this converts 110 volts down to 12 volts. So you hook it up to these 2 little posts here, and it runs off of 110 volts. So my plan, or my thought, is this is a fairly small unit. It would potentially, or should, fit inside of the 14 by 14 opening that this air conditioner will be sitting in. So I should be able to mount it on the side, power it from the 110 volt power that's already powering the Mach air conditioner. And even at high cooling, this thing should probably cool, or probably draw, 1/3 or 1/4 of what the Mach pulls. And I'm going to find out how much it pulls using this amp meter. And this amp meter, what I've done is actually plug it in before the converter, so that if there's converter loss, we can actually also find out what the converter loss is. So that'll be part of the measurement. And I'm going to do the same thing with the Coleman Mach. I'm going to disconnect it from 110 power, put it on a plug, and I'm going to plug it in to this amp meter as well, and we'll see what the power usage is on the Coleman Mach. So that's going to give us a good judge of, is this thing going to pull a small amount of power? So if we pull it around and we're getting it ready, or we're mooch stocking, or we don't have 50 amps, can I run multiple air conditioners? I think most of the power is going to be pulled through the Rec Pro, but with the power out usage that this one pulls at standard and not turbo, and the 12 volt that's plugged into my battery bank in the front of the RV, I should be able to run 3 air conditioners in the RV, potentially plugged into one 120 volt outlet like the one in my house. So we'll see. But for now, I'm just going to run a capacity test. And this is a simple, how long will this last on 100 amp hours of battery. This is the Nudie Power 100 amp hour battery. It's got Bluetooth connectivity, so I can pull up all the data on my phone and give you a quick, simple rundown. So I've got this on standard cooling right now. It's been running for about 30 minutes. We're only pulling under 12 amps and 150 watts. So it's probably mostly the fan, almost exclusively the fan. And it says we have 8 hours. So I'm going to crank this thing down to 65 degrees and we're going to let it cook a little bit. I know from experience that these units, if they're pushing pretty hard, and because of the temperature outside, that one there and the other iHu 2 on the front of my RV running off of this battery, they both lasted about 2.5 hours when they were stressed to the limit for most of the test. So this one, I'm going to try to crank the temperature down to 65. We'll see if it can drop the temperature in this shed right now. It should, because of the temperature outside. So the first test we're going to do is drop this thing into turbo mode. So let's drop the temperature down to 65. And we're setting it to turbo. So let's see if this inverter ramps up, since it is an inverter compressor. You can slowly hear it cranking up. You can watch our numbers rise. 15 amps, 200 watts. It is ramping up slowly. Turn it down to like 63 degrees. 20 amps, 22 amps, almost 300 watts. Now it says we're at 3 hours and 42 minutes. So our estimated empty time is dropping and our current is coming up. We'll check back in when this peaks out. The results are in on the 100 amp hour test. I set the AC basically in standard cooling mode. I did have to turn the temperature down to about 67 degrees because it's about 75 outside right now. And I set the fan at 4, so it would actually test the battery and test the air conditioner. When it was pushing decently hard, heavily and cooling, 40 amps and 600 watts is about where it settled in at, a little over 40 amps and 600 watts. So that's really the sweet spot for when it's pushing moderately to cool. And then, you know, if you're going to be using this overnight, just know you're probably going to get 5 hours out of this battery because it will be cycling on and off if the, you know, your temperature is 75 degrees or cooler and you're in a fairly well insulated RV or unit. So that's the 100 amp hour test. We've been pushing for quite a while at 70 degrees, basically on standard cooling. Actually, this is on turbo, 70 degrees on turbo. Down here at the floor, it's cool, but my contraption is, it's for testing purposes only. It's not going to give you any cooling capacity in this shed that is not at all insulated. But we are pulling 834 watts, and that's with the loss. So even at max, we were under 700. So this is pulling 150-ish watts all by itself. So if we switch over, we're under 10 AC amps. So under 10 amps AC is pretty good. Any 15 amp plug is going to handle that. So if you can combine it with another AC, we'll have to see how much it pulls. But we'll drop this to eco real quick, up the temperature, and see what the amperage drops to, or the wattage drops to. Eco, fan down. It's ramping down pretty quickly now. So we're eco. The fan is at 2. Still blowing cold air. 330 watts. So 330 watts on eco. So when it's down this low on a battery, it's closer to 110, so 150. So you're looking at about 150 extra watts through the converter. So let's go set up a test to see how much that Coleman is pulling and see how they compare and if it's even worth it to switch this one out with the Coleman. Here's my setup. Inside the RV, I've turned off all the breakers except for the rear air conditioner. So the air conditioner is on high. We're at 1,300, almost 1,400 watts and almost 12 amps. So that's 3 extra amps. And at 1,400 watts, that's 600 more watts. So 600 more watts and 3 more amps. That's what it pulls for a 2018 Coleman Mach. We'll see inside if it's cooling. I've turned off all the other breakers, so everything else is isolated in the panel. And all we're running is this Coleman Mach. And aside from the bedroom here, and it's not even that cold, it's not pushing very much through these vents. These vents are terrible. All RV vents are terrible. I should get a thermal imaging camera and go up top and see if there's problems with the roof. But it's working and it's pulling a lot of amps. It's on cool and high fan. So we are pulling about as much as it'll pull. So that is in essence what we would save. So that's the benchmark. So if I replaced this with the 12 volt and I put the converter here, then we would have to run this test again and get the benchmark, running it straight from the generator. So this thing is actually topping out at 1500 watts and 13 amps. A little bit more than what we had a few minutes ago, but that's where we're at. I've made up my mind. This thing I built was a terrible idea. Milk was a terrible idea. It did nothing but waste time yesterday. So there's that. This thing pulls, with the converter, 800 watts, 9 amps AC. That one at the very end was pulling 1600 watts almost, so double watts and 3 more amps, so 13 plus amps. If I run this through the AC version, I can run that 12 volt air conditioner and probably the 120 volt air conditioner all at the same time. Now, I can't run the water heater probably, and I probably also couldn't run the inverter, which can pull an additional 50 amps to charge the battery. Otherwise, we're good. And I kind of like this unit. So as soon as they send me the kit for my 5-inch roof, I'm going to climb back up there and install this bad boy, block off those vents, and see what we got. I think I'll also get a infrared heat camera and see if we can't see if that venting is messed up, because if this works, what if I find I actually think that's a 1500 BTU center AC, even though it doesn't feel like it. I think if I get a higher BTU heater AC that's 12 volts, I can replace it. I don't know, because I can run two of these for the same power that one of those does. So I could just run 2, and they're quiet. So that Coleman is ridiculously loud, and sleeping under it is, when it kicks on, it wakes you up every single time. That's why we don't use it that much. So that's the decision, guys. Hope you learned something. I hope I learned something. I gotta watch my own video to make sure I learned something. But like, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll catch you on the next one.